Hi everybody, I'm Mark Bryan from Hootie and the Blowfish. Don't go anywhere because Profiles is coming right up.
Welcome to Profiles. I'm Jeanette Eng. Today's guest is Mark Bryan, founding member, guitar player, and songwriter for Hootie and the Blowfish. With their unique blend of blues, pop, folk, rock, and soul, Hootie and the Blowfish since the late 80s has been amongst the most successful bands on the music scene. After a short break, we'll join our host Mickey Burns as he welcomes the talented Mark Bryan to Profiles. Welcome back to Profiles. Hootie and the Blowfish formed in 1986. The quartet met while freshmen at the University of South Carolina and have released numerous successful albums since then. Today's guest, Mark Bryan, is lead guitarist for Hootie and the Blowfish. He also plays the mandolin, among other instruments, and also lends his voice to background vocals. So let's join our host Mickey Burns on location at Ashford & Simpson Sugar Bar in the heart of New York City as he welcomes Mark Bryan to Profiles.
She inherited $1 million and when she died, came to me, I can't help it if I'm lucky. I only wanna be with you. Ain't Bobby so cool? I only wanna be with you.
Mark Bryan, welcome to our show, Profiles.
Thank you, Mickey.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
You too.
For our viewers, you're one of the founding members, guitar player, and songwriter for the popular group Hootie and the Blowfish since the mid-'80s.
That's right.
Right off, I have to ask you this, because a lot of our viewers are wondering, how did you come up with the name when the band first formed, Hootie and the Blowfish?
I'll tell you the full story. Darius and I were an acoustic duo at first,
yeah,
and we were called the Wolf Brothers. And when Dean, who was one of my high school band buddies, joined our band, he came to college in South Carolina too. Okay. When he joined the band and we got a drummer, Darius decided we should be called Hootie and the Blowfish based on the nicknames of two guys that were in his choral group, Carolina Alive. Okay. And they had, Hootie had big, thick glasses that made him look like an owl, and the Blowfish had big, puffy cheeks. And Darius had given them their nicknames. They walked into a party together and they were Hootie and the Blowfish. And so Darius said, well, that should be the name of our band. Well, at the time, we didn't think anything was ever going to come from it. So I said, sure, why not? Right. And then before we knew it, 4 years later, we were known by that. It was too late to change it. I always thought it was a corny name, but it sure worked out.
It worked for you guys. As legend has it, as you mentioned, the band met while attending University of South Carolina.
That's right.
And that you originally heard Darius, who was in the same dorm as you, singing in the shower. Is that how the collaboration began?
Yep, singing in the shower, singing down the hall, in his room, you know. He had a great voice and he wasn't afraid to use it, and I had my guitar down at school. And it turned out, the cool thing is we knew, you know, a lot of the same songs. We had similar taste. Yeah. Like our first set that we ever did together consisted of like Simon and Garfunkel, the Eagles, Dire Straits, and Commodores. You know, we kind of liked all the same stuff. So it was already a nice mix of sort of rock, R&B, soul, you know, even country. We even did like a Hank Jr. song. And you know, Darius is doing his country album now. So, sure. You know, we've both been sort of open-minded about music all along and had similar tastes. And so it was a good match right from the top.
Yeah. What did you study at the University of South? Because you did graduate.
Interestingly, we were both, not only did Darius and I live in the same dorm, we were both in broadcast journalism classes together. He was a year ahead of me, but we did take some classes together.
And as it turned out, you are utilizing some of those skills.
Somewhat, you know, by doing radio, and I'm on the mic all the time on stage and in interviews and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions regarding Hootie and the Blowfish has to be that the band was an overnight success. What is the truth?
Well, we were together for 9 years before we released Cracked Rear View. And 4 of those years we were students at the university and mostly doing cover music, just for fun, weekends. It was like we didn't need a job during college because we made money playing music. So. Right. And then when we graduated, we started bringing in more originals and getting serious about it. And we bought a van and started touring all over the Southeast. And, and building up a following.
Well, after 10 years of hard work, as you mentioned, you released the album Cracked Rear View. The album at the beginning was doing pretty good, from what I read, good enough to get you booked on the Letterman show.
That's when the overnight success happened.
Yeah,
we were selling about 5,000 copies a week, 4,000 or 5,000 copies a week through the radio we were getting through Atlantic Records. And when we did David Letterman's show, it jumped to about 16,000, 17,000 copies a week.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And at that time, Letterman told the audience after your performance, he said, if you don't have this album, there's something wrong with you. When he said that, what do you think?
We were like, wow, that could be really good. Yeah. I think for us, it was more than anything, it was like, we were such big Letterman fans growing up and watching him. I even remember watching him on daytime TV when I was younger and stuff. It was the ultimate compliment to hear him say that about us. You know, that it made us feel really good. And it really affirmed all the work we'd put in up to that point.
Well, now Hootie and the Blowfish were in a different place, and Darius was quoted as saying, "It became dreamlike. I'd wish for it, but I'm not sure I believed it, even as it was happening."
That's pretty accurate. It was sort of like surreal, and all of a sudden we were touring Europe and touring all over the country, and we went from playing clubs to playing big theaters and that sort of thing, and it was all very surreal. But the key was not to overthink it at the time. It was to keep moving forward, you know, and embrace each new level. How do we take our show from a club to a theater and still feel like we're doing our thing naturally?
Right.
And so we had to more concentrate on being in the moment and really excelling at what we were doing, rather than sitting there going, wow, this is so cool, you know?
Now, for our viewers in New York, who, you know, a lot of Hootie fans here too, but the music of Hootie and the Blowfish is a blend. It's a blend of pop, folk, blues, soul, and rock. And my question is, did you believe that this musical versatility would be an asset for the band in garnering such a huge audience?
I mean, it makes sense when you look back on it, but we didn't think about it like that at the time. I mean, we were just writing from our hearts and writing what came along.
Sure.
You know, it wasn't something contrived in any way, like, hey, let's sound like all these different things and appeal to all these different people. It just sort of happened.
It just happened, and it's been good for you.
It really has. Yeah.
Now, currently, as busy as you are, you're celebrating the release of a solo album.
That's correct.
And the name of the album is titled End of the Front. And in reading the background about the album, this is a selection of songs that you've been working on over the past 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I write songs all the time. And so I get to the point where there's a stack of songs that haven't made it to the Hootie albums that I still feel strongly about.
Yeah.
So I got to do something with them. I'm not going to leave them sitting in my house. So here you are. Here's my album.
All alone and so confused. Oh, Charlie, where do I begin? Please let my words in. I'll forgive your sin. Your world begins where my words end.